Good morning. All right. So back to normal. Just the typical things to worry about day to day. A little humor, but there's always some concern. The market's going to do this or that for whatever reason. And now we have this little jiggle going on here because of Oracle, which is getting shellacked. The AI supposedly bubble. Uh, Mostly about, if you read what it's about, mostly about the money that's being spent and it's pretty amazing stuff. We'll see where it all goes. Yeah, I'm going to put the charts up. Yeah, we go. All right. So we've been sitting through this 2 week consolidation, boring, chop, back and forth, back and forth. And so yesterday, as you know, I had this up day, and it was accompanied by, you can see here, the type of breath that should accompany a move like that up there, plus 1200 at the close. And then the news came out and things came down pretty hard. I think just based on typical price action that, markets moving up as they have, this is the typical kind of counter trend move after an extreme move to the downside like that, down toward that significant support area. And today is going to be sort of a wait and see, and we'll see in the next, I guess, give it a half hour. But this retracement here, whether it shakes off the news and back up to the high, which puts us back in the trading range, flip flopping or roll back over. The retracement here is about the extent of what would be typical, maybe a little bit more after this kind of a weakness. So one of the concepts, price actions to focus on after a move like that is to recognize retracement. I'm not talking about Fibonacci. I'm just talking about how far do prices retrace back up to where they came from. And common sense is if it doesn't retrace very far, it hangs down by the low, going sideways. Sellers continue and it's likely to drop. So now we're kind of right in the middle, right? Maybe a little bit more, but I don't know where it's right now, but it's retraced about as far as what would be typical to say, hey, I'm going to do a counter trend trade when prices stabilize as they did down there and start chopping around and coming up. You look to the left, here's some congestion over there. And that would be the trade. And the same with prices going down, when prices go up like they were there on the 5 minute, everything's applicable to all time frames. Going sideways after a run up says demand is still strong, and then it continued. And now it's pulling back to what we call minor support. And this will be where kind of the battle begins as to, is it going to roll back to the downside, or hey, buy here and back up, and who cares about Oracle? Now, that being said, I mean, I'm looking at what they call the 800-pound gorilla, Nvidia, and that's not looking so appealing. It didn't participate very much, and notice the range expansion bar and the inside bar. This is what we call a breakout bar failure pattern. And it's triggering, or it has triggered, where, here's the wider bar. It breaks out above these highs. You get an inside bar, and then it takes out the low. And that historically leads, like any pattern that you recognize, um, a move lower. So this is not a good sign. And if this starts going down and then we start looking at a broader perspective, semiconductors. And what I see here, besides you can see the gap down of significance, is that this move up and then a range expansion bar, a greater than 100% retracement, historically means the move in the short term is over. Now, range expansion bar, if it's followed by a down bar, you see where it's here. We'll see where it opens up, but it's going to gap down. If we get a weak close you know that short term is extended, bearish price action, couple of days, little failure, you get a pullback, and then as we go into next week, we'll just see, and tomorrow, I'm already thinking next week. I don't know why it feels kind of like it should be Friday for me, but what kind of correction after this strong move up occurs. I think that's the theme for today, is to just see the extent of where prices end up at the end of the day, since prices are short-term extended. And, looking at other markets as we do, there's another wide range bar after moving up off of the lows and regional banks. And that would also imply short-term prices are going to consolidate the gains. I think, odds are we're going to see some choppy price action, but, looking a little further out, this is bullish. And all of the other moves, along with this breadth internal that I spoke about a week ago, implying bullish price action into the future, a lot of that you get, let's say, confirming price action, meaning it wasn't just the typical, big stocks going up. It was a broad market advance. You did have the semis, you had regional banks, they had retailing that moved up. And so, and kind of just take it easy today, and let's see what holds on to their gain and what doesn't, where it goes. All right, other markets. So there's the NASDAQ futures. You can see they got clobbered. They were down last night considerably. And you can see the bottoming tail bar taking out all of those lows. So at the end of today, is Oracle just noise? And if you can visualize this on a closing basis, it's just jiggling around here. Does it end up in this area or back down to the lows? So right now, strong move into resistance. It's been consolidating. And as of last night, I was thinking above this area, buy. And then, the news kind of put a foil in that. So I think we're back to the likely to be chopped for now, to see how the markets digest that news and what other stocks do within that sector. Here's the Russell, another, wide range bar, breakout into resistance, strong move up. I think inside day, you can see where, they're coming back down off of the lows here and breaking that support, that little consolidation there. I think, that leads to, okay, the next level, which is down here. And does it hold there? And I'm thinking inside day today as far as that goes. So not really great opportunity here. We'll see how much it's going to consolidate. I really thought those Qs were going to hold on, if they could have, and take out those highs because they had the void above to catch up. That's not happening. Where's my Dow futures? And they're hanging in there pretty darn good. Look at that consolidation there. But we'll see if they can hold on or what they're going to do. So we don't have any patterns right now. It's kind of a reset after that news to see how things shape up, at least on the daily charts. And this looks like it's going to try and go higher, but the upside is, I suspect, is going to be limited. As far as gaps go, looking at where they're at, you can see, there's a gap down within the trading range for the Qs, spiders, gap down in the middle of the trading range. So in the middle of nowhere, no man's land, reset, as I said. SPX, let me just double check here to see if things are moving. Those are the numbers before we started. And 75. So it came up a little bit interesting. It was moving up and now it's moving down. Probably it's gonna by the open comes down a little bit. We'll be back to that, but I put in what I see while we're talking. These numbers are always a starting point, and they're a good starting point because historically they never hit those numbers. Every once in a while they do, and there's an extreme move. And that came down a little. Interesting. All right. So it got tighter. You see the two lines came closer together. And you can see prices are in here. So take your pick. Which way is it going to go? Odds are, in my opinion, they're not going up there today. After that gap down, it'll take time for prices to digest. And that's the beauty of credit spreads. You don't have to have prices move. Digestion is fine. And the uncertainty of yesterday's positive to this morning's negative is more likely to lead to some choppy price action. All right. Volatility index down a whole heck of a lot, down near where it's stabilized before. And just because it's low, that doesn't mean it has to go up. But there's a vast difference between being up near a prior high, which would imply a low point in the broader markets, and coming all the way down here, where it would suggest the upside is limited. Historical patterns, common sense. But it can stay down here and markets can consolidate and go up. And we'll see what happens. Oil is moving lower this morning. And so this move up, which was looking pretty darn positive, strong move. You can see the wide range bar on the weekly. It's just continued to deteriorate, inching lower and dropping pretty sharply here this morning into the pivot low. And gold, I think it's getting ready. Here was the buy setup, and this has just been kind of drifting a little bit. And above those highs, it should start moving higher. And it's just that kind of pattern. We call it a bull flag, call it whatever you want, sideways into a rising 20, consolidating after a bullish move up. Buyers are not running away. And silver, it's just leading the pack there. And Dan's friend said something yesterday, told him about some shortage or something. Maybe Dan can mention that. I forget exactly what he said, but I mean, bullish consolidation. So as you can see, no matter what we look at, it's the same type of analysis. Big push up, creates a void below, sideways near the top of the move is bullish, bullish 180, red bar ignored, tightens up. It was MT Live yesterday where we looked at lots of patterns that had moves or moves like this where the pivot highs and lows were far apart and then it tightens up. And tightening up is a good thing because that's when you start to get bigger moves, when things tighten up. Whereas, things are tightening up as we go back and look at spiders. Tightening up after this move higher, but we just got this whipping around action that's happening right now. So point is you got to recognize what is and not kid yourself about, in a sense, what you want to happen. We're all susceptible to doing that. All right. Bitcoin, not ready. And so this week I talked about this potentially being a bear flag, right? This being your flag pole, the momentum move, and then the slow upward grind at the bottom of that move. And what we were talking about before. What do prices do after a momentum move? Do they spring back up or do they hang down near the lows? This is hanging down near the lows. And now it's starting to get a rollover, which would imply coming down. And, we looked at the weekly chart. You can see down here where this pivot low is, and I'm hoping it goes down there. into next week, because from the higher time frame, when you get a momentum move like that, often you do get a lower low. And so as momentum slows, the distance between the lows, that's and things begin to stabilize, typically, historically, that's when a more meaningful move occurs. All right. ETH, Ethereum was stronger, but now it's giving it all back. The day's just beginning, but it's giving back the breakout here. So not ready either. And you can see here's another concept. Sharp move down. It's not lifting up. So now if this had fallen all the way down to here without this stabilization as a counter trend trade, that would have been a good opportunity for some consolidation and then a counter trend move. And we see where it goes from there. Similar to what we looked at earlier with the futures having moved down an extreme amount. But this is going sideways. And so while it hasn't broken down yet, the fact that it hasn't been able to move up would imply lower. Price action, interpreting what it's doing, and leads us to what's likely to happen. So that's it. We'll see where this all shapes up today. And as we do every day right now, to me, it looks like, some consolidation to see where things are going to go. You, Dan? I don't hear Dan. Do you?
Yeah, sorry. Yep, I had the second mic blocked. All right, sound check. Better now?
Yep.
All right, cool. Yeah, what I was saying was Greg was saying, hey, chill out here at the open. And I was saying, for those of you who have been with us for years, I always say on Fed Day, don't get sucked into it. Yeah, that was a bullish close. But in my experience, many times you get counter trend moves, and the real move starts at 10:30 the following day. Um, so I'm glad we're getting down. So because this would not. Well, you could have bought that as a wide range bar, but your stop's yesterday's low. Now it's going to have to prove itself. So yeah, holding pattern. How many alarms going off? Greg wanted me to comment on silver. So yeah, Greg, I didn't tell you this story. So when the Merc shut down, remember their power problem? Jim Kelly, he's a smart macro guy, but he's always digging and digging, and in the government, he's a digger. And he said, he said, coincidentally, conspiracy theorists, you can come up with your own analysis, but he said they blamed it on the power outage, which you all remember my response. I'm like, really? You don't have backup to a power outage? He said that they had a big delivery problem with silver that was messing up the Merc, and they had an off exchange settlement of a bunch of silver, and he thinks that's why they were why they shut down. And then secondly, he says, yeah, he mentioned there's some big old silver dealer over in Europe that is demanding, delivery, and that's causing this squeeze that we're in right now. Um, but anyway, he's been bullish on silver for the longest time, and he thinks this behavior could be the key of some underlying, things aren't lined up properly. Um, so that's it on silver. Uh, Alarms, IONQ, nothing. I don't have any alarms going off. Let's go right to earnings. Sienna, that's a powerful move, gapping up 18 bucks. So even though the 15 is very bullish, it's a potential one DTE call spread gap and grab. So I got that in this middle window. Love Sack. This is one of Sam's ETFs. I mean, in Sam's ETF, 1130. It's a nasty gap to the prior low. We'll come back. $1.90. Could it be a short-term exhaustion gap? Maybe, but they usually don't occur from a consolidation. But we'll see. Nothing to do now. XM 31, another one getting whacked. Let's see what that does. I'll put that in a window. XM Mountain is Vail Resorts 147. All right, that's a bullish gap. It's a bullish gap over that ugly red bar. So that would be a great put spread. If there's any juice, you can look after 5 minutes. Guaranteed at the open, the spreads will be ludicrous. This is what I call a headache pattern. Up, down, up, down. I don't see any opens. So I would not directionally trade a pattern like this, but depending on where it gaps, maybe credit spread. Papa Lima 16, gaps too big but bullish. Adobe was up, I thought, a little bit. 339, nothing to do. A 30-minute low, I would say 350 call spread for tomorrow. Oracle's the big story getting wet. Look at that gap down and look, it's not bouncing. This thing's gotten its head. That's a real company. 340 down to 184. Well, so it's holding the prior low for now. The expected move was 22, which is still, I thought, a lot. And so look at that, it's $9 more than the expected move. So that's a big outlier. What's my bias? It's a bearish gap, but it fits in the category of possibly excessive. So I'll 30-minute high, possible one DTE. I'll tell you if it sets up. Snips, opening flat, no pattern. Skill, wow, percentage wise, look at the size of that nasty gap. And that's down from 13. So they're doing something drastically wrong. Look at that breakout failure. Breakdown monthly. This looks horrible. Uniform. It's extended far from the 20, but 15 is still bullish, so nothing to do. Postage. It's not earnings. It was in the news of some sort, but I posted this as a put spread over yesterday's high. It's not we define a CLIMO. It's not just far from the 20. We have a specific definition of CLIMO, 5 or more fluid bars that escalate from the 20. So this is not a CLIMO, so I just labeled it, it's a bullish turn far from the 20. So there was no follow through to this ugly red bar. So it's a put spread. All right, those are all the earnings. Look at this thing exploded yesterday. Miggy, and it's up again. Wow, down from 40 bucks. No setup though. 51. Oh, that's IBIT. That's Bitcoin. I was watching Ether yesterday. It looks really good. Um, Glad we held off. So, this is an uglier gap proportionally than the market. So that's kind of interesting to me. I'm not sure what to think about it. Look at this craziness. BTTC. This data is all just scrunched because this pop up here to 40 is scrunching this data. But still, nevertheless, look at that, $4 to 12 pre-markets. Incredible. XYZ, possible put spread watch, bottoming pattern. Visa got an upgrade or something or other. But I set an alarm at 326.50. If it negates that bullish gap, then this would be a breakdown at the 20. Target 320. Look at this disaster du jour. Resolute. I mean, whenever I see a gap like that, my immediate guess is it's a bio. Like, what on earth would cause a gap down that big? I don't know if it's a bio or not. I didn't look. I don't care. But man, look at the size of that gap. Um, Pets, nice retest, W bottom there, but gapping up huge. Wow, look at the size of that gap. Pets. Wow. I wonder what the news is on that. All right, so Bitcoin down. This mister I was watching is a possible bottoming pattern, inverse head and shoulder with this head down here. But now with the gap down, it's a 1 DTE call spread. Oh, I want to see what the premium is after 5 minutes. Coin, same. Same. It was a potential bottoming pattern. But do you all remember yesterday, MT Live on breakouts? If you were with us for 1 hour, is that a quality breakout? No, no. So we would have never have bought that. Now we have three topping tails at the 200 in a downtrend, gapping under support. Now it's a no-brainer call spread. So that's on my list. NVTS, this is a little semiconductor that, yesterday's high I got an alarm, a Hilton alarm. That's a buy setup and bottoming tail. Gapped over. So we can do 5-minute high. El Lima, I posted.
AMD is breaking that support down. You could probably do a call spread on that.
Right. El Lima is triggering cleanly. That's a clean buy setup with a 180 and a 123 reversal. That looks fantastic. 15-minute chart looks good. AMD. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Absolutely. We can even go out to next week if we have to. Well, at least maybe give it 10-minute low, but yeah, looks great. Let my Thinkorswim here. Let me copy of the chart. For tomorrow would be the 223s. 225. 230.
He's asking about the letter he sent it with.
And let me check next week also. Two 30, 235, 75. All right, there's two of them. Like them both. G golf we were talking about yesterday. Alarm just popped. That'd be a great 30-minute high. Diamond's strongest here out of the gate on the 515. Yeah, let's do a half lot over the high, half lot over 30-minute high. High and Gillette would be 46.65. Yep, Hig alarm just went off for me, Alex, 132. Well, yeah, it's off. Yeah, it looks great. Moved up yesterday's low now, 129.68. That's a rocket on the 15-minute. Man, G triggered. I'm behind posting things. Let's see, 5 minute high was 46.60.